Virtua Fighter 6 just released some pre-development concept footage for that game, and it is looking fantastic. Now, me as somebody who has talked about Virtua Fighter 6 in the past and saying that it needs some extra combat mechanics, it needs some flashy stuff on the screen, some installs or something, this is actually changing my mind. And actually my mind was kind of changed before this even came out, listening to the developers interview talking about how they planned on making Virtua Fighter 6 stand out, from making a more submersive environment, having the stages look fantastic, focusing more on character development, focusing more on story mode, focusing more on all of the outside factors outside of general gameplay to make you feel like the game is a brand new, well-polished, new and improved product, while keeping to their same hand-to-hand combat roots. And with this coming out, that they're basically going to cash in on everything that they've been selling. I'm actually hyped to see where this goes and how it actually turns out on release, and we get more and more things going forward for the game. But some people still aren't impressed. Some people still feel like the game isn't going to do very well. Some people feel like Virtua Fighter 6, if it's not going to have combat mechanics, fireballs, and flashy stuff, that it's going to be boring. Some people feel like if they're going to stick to typical hand-to-hand combat, the game is not going to sell well. And with that, I feel like the FGC needs to give Virtua Fighter 6 a fair shot. You need to give it a fighting chance. We live in an FGC right now where everything and everybody is basically trying to go with modern controls. They're trying to go with super offensive gameplay. They're trying to go with no defensive options. They're trying to go with skip neutral 50-50 madness. But Virtua Fighter is seeming like they're sticking to the roots and trying to bring back really true, authentic, literal fighting games. And I think everybody needs to give it a chance. Let's not go for a future where everything looks the same. So let's look at what the actual developers and producers are saying about what they want from Virtua Fighter 6. So if we look at this Event Hub article, we see it says Virtua Fighter developers are aiming to keep the game plain and honest rather than filling the screen with flashy things like fireballs. So a Sega executive says, when it comes to Virtua Fighter and the story around it, it feels similar to K1 to me. K1 was originally a straight-laced karate organization event. The K1 fighters used to do karate, kickboxing, and other things that have been around for a long time, and there wasn't anything new. The entertainment of the matches was quite different from something like pro wrestling. There wasn't anything flashy, and it was a very plain fight. But by adding in the path and story which led to the fighters to this point, it became a top-level entertainment. That's why you can look at games that have a Hadouken or flashy special moves like a pro wrestling type of entertainment, while the entertainment that Virtua Fighter is aiming for will be closer to what K1 was, declared Yokoyama. So you can kind of see where he's coming from. It's basically like WWE and UFC. UFC is entertaining because of the storylines behind it, the skills of the characters, who we know they are, and putting them up against each other one-on-one can lead to some very entertaining matches. Well, WWE does a totally different style, whereas it's predetermined and what some people would call fake. No, they literally go through pain, but you know, it's predetermined and they write out their storylines. He wants to go more so like the MMA style, or he uses K1 as an example. So authentic fights can still be entertaining is what he wants. So rather than change the rules or fill the screen with flashy things, we like to keep it plain and honest and trying to enhance that side of his draw. From my perspective, that's what we have to do. And I think that's an okay thing. Like I said once before, I used to say stuff like they need a combat mechanic and things of that nature. But I think with what they're doing and what we're seeing, it's possible. It can be possible. Everything doesn't have to be the same. Everybody doesn't have to go down the same road. They can move to the beat of their own drum. We can still give them a chance to see if the product that they're going to make is going to be pretty good, because what we seen from that footage, wouldn't that be exciting for to have fights like that? Wouldn't it be exciting to have a world that immersive, things that beautiful, the fight reacting like that, it moving that smooth and buttery? Now, yes, it was a pre-development concept, but that is still basically showing you what they're shooting for the game. Now, yes, you'll probably get it. It won't be as beautiful as far as like graphics and stuff like that. And you might get it might be less smooth and everything might not be exactly the same as far as the combat. But if that's what they're shooting for, that's something great to shoot for. I would want to get my hands on that game. Now, one thing that did stand out in the Famitsu article that was kind of concerned about Virtua Fighter 6 was Yamada saying that Virtua Fighter 6 is not a difficult game, but players have honed their techniques, making a perception of difficulty. One problem he notes is difficulty of learning the steps to the basic fighting game and wants to remove that hurdle of it. Now, when I read this originally in it saying that he wanted to remove the hurdle of learning the basics of fighting games, that started to sound a lot like modern controls, super offensive play, making it easier for casuals and stuff to get in, because even Reinhardt has told you that Virtua Fighter is probably one of the hardest games to actually master or get good or proficient at. But when you read exactly what he said from this Event Hubs article, now that article I just came from was basically like a summary of everything that he said, but this is the exact quote. He says, "I think that fundamentally Virtua Fighter is not a difficult game. In Virtua Fighter, the level of research and hone techniques that players have acquired, but at its base, it's a game with a stick and 3 to 4 buttons which are operating. So compared to other fighting games, it's not very complicated at the base level. But I do think that one of the problems is that the steps from the basics to higher levels is difficult to understand. There are no special moves, so I don't know where to start," is something I think a lot of players probably say. We want to lower their hurdle of how to get into it. So basically it reads kind of different when you read the exact quote. It's like he's basically saying trying to go from those beginner levels to the higher level that a lot of pro players are. They want to make it easier to get to that level. Now that still does sound concerning. It doesn't sound as bad like them saying we want to take away the basics, but it still does sound like they're trying to lower the margin or lower the space between where the pros lie and where the casuals lie, which is concerning. Is where basically all other fighting games are going. So it's like they're trying to do half and half. It's like they're trying to stay true to their roots and not bring in like super over the top casual stuff, but at the same time they still want to do some stuff that the casuals can get in it. Now that's something, now since it's seeming like a little bit conflicting, like one thing is saying one thing and another thing is saying another thing, even with the clear up, it's still kind of just like, I want to see what it's like when the game comes out, because that does sound pretty concerning. It sounds kind of whack, to be honest. Like, I'm gonna just be honest. But at the end of the day, I think we need to give Virtua Fighter 6 a chance. We have already seen people lament and talk about, like, for example, Guilty Gear Strive. A lot of people talk about how Guilty Gear Strive is one of the most dumbed down, simple Guilty Gears of all time. We already know what's going on with Street Fighter 6, and everybody's talking about Drive Rush and all that other stuff. We already know what's going on with Tekken 8 with the heat system. So with Virtua Fighter still coming out, what we saw from that video don't look like there's no mechanics, no gimmicks, no nothing. It's just straight hands. So it's looking like they're going to stay to it. I think we need that variety in the FGC. Some people are longing for that. Some people are wanting that. You got people like Perfect Legend who's online saying that this is true fighting game. So, you know, and you have a lot of people that believe that. You have some people that don't want Virtua Fighter the same, but still you have some people that saying like, look, it's not going to sell, which is understandable. It's understandable why they say that, because Virtua Fighter, what it has been for all this time, has been a game that, if we go based off its history, it hadn't sold well. I mean, I think it's only done like 10 million copies throughout its lifetime. So, I mean, Tekken 7 by itself sold 10 million. So it hasn't been a game that has like sold, you know, has been appealing to the masses and stuff like that. But I think with what they're saying with how they're going to change the story mode, how they're going to, you know, have the characters more development, it's going to be more story into the game, because we know Virtua Fighter was a 100% arcade game through and through back then. It wasn't really too much in depth about the characters. Like, pick one you think the coolest and start throwing hands, buddy. But they said they're going to change that. They're making a world that you can get very, very ingrained into. We saw that the worlds are looking amazing. A lot of people are talking about it looks like Yakuza. And if the camera movement and everything that we saw from that video, it kind of stays anywhere near close to the same, they make hand-to-hand combat look good, man. So we have a space for this. We need a space for this. And then on top of that, 3D games just need help in general. Tekken is basically just the only option. It's the only option. So I think the FGC and the people who basically are sitting here saying this gonna suck, it's not gonna sell, it's not gonna be nothing, give it a chance, man. Open your mind, give it a chance. I mean, everybody's basically sitting there waiting on games like 2XKO for to come and be the savior. It's not. All these games are going to play a part in the larger picture, and we don't want all these games to be coming together looking the same, everything just bland. It's like, pick your poison. Which game you want to go into and get rushed down to death, which game you want to go into and guess to death. Like, it's like, just give them a chance. Let's give them an opportunity to come out and see what they can do, because right now it's looking good. You cannot lie and say it's not looking good. So it's your boy Rex on Max. Peace out.